Okay, we're running.
It is Friday, 8th of March 2019. You have been curator of film and sound at RAF Museum. We're at the RAF Museum at Hendon. Robert Wright behind me on the camera. Could I ask you your full name and your final rank in the Royal Air Force?
Yeah, Ralph Isaac Levy, and my rank on the mob was AC1 Aircraftman 1, first class.
And could I ask your date of birth and where you were born?
I was born in London on the 22nd of November 1927.
And did you grow up in London as well?
I grew up in West London. My father was the minister of the synagogue at Holland Park, and we were allocated a house next door to the synagogue. So from 1928, a year after I was born, we lived in that house until I got married in 1960.
Did religion play an important part in your life as you grew up? Did religion play an important part in your life as you grew up?
Did what?
Did religion play an important part in your life as you grew up?
Well, I mean, being that my father was the minister of the synagogue, he obviously tutored me in to be a religious boy. But then when the war broke out in 1939, I had to be evacuated, and I went to High Wycombe, and I lived in an un-Jewish house. So there wasn't much scope for religious learning in the year that I stayed with them. But after the year, I decided I didn't want to stay there any longer, and so I came back to London, to my home in London, in spite of the Blitz.
Before the war, as you were... how did you get on at school before the war?
Before the war? Well, I was under 12 when I was at a primary school. I went to the Latimer School in Hammersmith from the age of 5 to 12, and there were no examinations to take during that period until we got to the 11 plus, and the 11 plus was supposed to be taken in my location in High Wycombe, where I was evacuated, but it didn't actually happen, because in the school that we were supposed to go to in High Wycombe, it was occupied in the morning by the local children, and we had it in the afternoon. So while I was away in High Wycombe for a year, we were mainly on the sports field rather than in the classes. So I didn't get much education during that year.
Were there any particular subjects or anything of that sort at school that you particularly enjoyed or found yourself particularly good at? Well,
I wasn't getting really anything at all that interested me, because of the, when I was 11 and a half, the war started, and education wasn't a priority. So it wasn't until I came back to London after the year away that I went to a school in Notting Gate where there was only 12 pupils because they'd all been evacuated, and the headmaster did take a personal interest in me and gave me individual tuition and homework to do, and at 12 I passed the examination, which was the 12 plus, to go to a secondary school. And I had the choice then to go to either a school in North London that taught me how to manufacture radios, another one in South London that taught me about textiles, and a third one in Hammersmith, near where I lived, that taught me about the building industry. And I think, for selfish reasons, I chose the one in Hammersmith because it was near my home. And I didn't really want to travel every day all that distance, especially in the Blitz. And I went there to the Hammersmith School of Building for 3 years, and I did very well. I was generally first in mathematics, first in the sciences, and I had a very good 3-year education at the Hammersmith School of Building. And then when a firm of chartered quantity surveyors contacted the headmaster and said, "Can you send 3 boys for an interview? We have a vacancy in our offices in Westminster." So I, together with 2 other boys, went for an interview, and fortunately, in the year before I was due to leave school, the maths tutor said, if any boys want to stay behind for an hour's lesson in advanced mathematics, then I will run this class. So I was one that stayed behind for a year and did the advanced mathematics, got the certificate. And when I went for the interview with this employer, he was very impressed that I had a certificate in advanced mathematics, and he gave me the job. And I was there. I actually, in the initial stages, I was trained in being a trainee quantity surveyor, and one of our jobs was for the Ministry of Defence to do the costing for the Mulberry Harbour that was going to be floated across the channel onto the Normandy beaches prior to the landing of the troops there, to give them a port in which to unload tanks and heavy armoured cars. And also, in addition to that, we prepared the costs for Pluto, a pipeline under the ocean from England to the Normandy beaches, to provide petrol on the petrol pumps that were installed on the Mulberry Harbour, to provide the troops with petrol to take their tanks and armoured cars into France. Without that, they wouldn't have been able to proceed on the beaches. And because I was engaged with a team of 4 other people doing that costing, for the preparation of the estimates for the work to be done, and then monitoring and the amount of money that was spent on getting the work done. It was a period of about a year. And so I got deferment from being called up because I was 18 and due to be conscripted. But my employer applied for deferment, and I got a year's deferment. So I didn't go into the forces until June 1946 instead of a year earlier.
Was there a lot of secrecy around your work?
I couldn't even tell my parents what I was doing. I had to sign a form to say that I wouldn't disclose it to anybody. Official Secrets Act, which I did, and I kept quiet for many, many years, even after the event.
And did you, at the time, know all about what it was that you were...
Yes, I did. I was completely in the picture of what it was there for. It was a brilliant idea on scientists that thought it up. And we had the benefit, the British forces had the benefit of this, whereas the Americans and the Canadians didn't, and they lost a lot of troops because they didn't have a port to land all their heavy equipment, whereas we did.
And can you tell me a bit more about your time as an evacuee? Was it very different to what you'd been used to before?
Well, to begin with, the people that I was evacuated, we had no choice as to which house we would go in. We were just in the town hall, and we were selected by various people that were prepared to take young boys and girls into their house, which was very kind of them, and treat us as their children. But some boys were lucky, and they were with people who were wealthy and had nice houses. I was selected by a couple that were very ordinary, hardly had any money at all. They certainly had never met a Jewish boy before, and I think that was difficult for them because I couldn't eat all the food that they provided for me. They tried their best in getting me backwards and forwards to the school for half a day, and then the other half day was going to the sports field, and it was very inconvenient for them. But they did help to give me a roof over my head during the blitz on London, and my parents were glad that I was away from it all. But then my father used to come and visit me once a month, which was nice. And then I was there for 11 months when I was due to have my confirmation. And you can have that in a synagogue. And actually, there was a temporary synagogue that Jewish people from the East End had created in High Wycombe that I could have gone to have my confirmation. But I did used to go there on a Saturday, but I found it very strange because I didn't know anybody there. And I felt that to have my confirmation amongst people I didn't know would be rather miserable. And I wasn't at all happy about that. So on the 11th month when my father came, I said to him, I think I'm coming home with you because I don't want my confirmation here and I want to practice for that in November. So in the September, there was a lot of resistance on the part of my parents to me going back at the height of the blitz. But I actually was determined to go, and I went on the coach with him, and I had my celebration. 15 people attended the synagogue, just members of the family.